Hello, mathematicians. Welcome back to another lesson in math workshop. Today we're going to be doing lesson number 11. During our last lesson, we began comparing decimals. Today we're going to continue with this work, but today we're going to take it a step further, and we are going to be comparing decimals with different forms, such as fractions and improper fractions. The teaching point today is mathematicians compare and order mixed numbers in various forms using a number line. As always, I want to continue to remind you to refer to your math vocabulary tools to keep your memory fresh so that you're using the academic vocabulary. We're going to watch a video that's going to take us further with this comparing of fractions using the various forms.
All right, this is 4th grade, Module 6, Lesson 11, and in this lesson we're going to continue comparing and ordering mixed numbers, but there's going to be a little twist because those numbers are not always going to be in standard form. We're going to have some fractions, we're going to have some decimals, we're going to have some improper fractions. It's really going to assess in this lesson whether your students really have that fluency, that flexibility with the way to think about numbers. So let's get started. So we've got these numbers up here, and what we're going to do is we're going to arrange them on the number line. And of course, once they're arranged on the number line, that immediately tells you your order from least to greatest. All right, so let's get going. So 0.6, well, that you can see it. It's right here, 0.6. And by the way, what that 0.6, and what we know is, since we see that this is 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, that means these little lines in between the tenths are hundredths. All right, so that's important for us to see that. We see that 5/10 goes right here, so that's 5/10. And then 0.76, so that's 7/10 plus 6/100, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. So that's going to be 0.76 right there. And that makes sense. And then, let's see, we've got 79 hundredths. Well, 79 hundredths, well, that's going to be, we're going to write that down here. 79 hundredths, we know, is 7/10 plus 9 hundredths. We know that from a previous lesson in this same module. So that means we need to go over 7/10, but then we need to go 9 hundredths more. And so 79 hundredths is going to be located right there. 79 hundredths. And then 0.53, so that's 5/10 plus 3 hundredths. So that's going to go right here. 0.53. And then lastly, 67 hundredths. So again, remember, 67 hundredths is going to look like 67 hundredths. You could use a number bond and make that 6/10 plus 7 hundredths. So 6/10 plus an extra 7 hundredths. Well, here's your 6/10 plus an extra 7 hundredths. So 67 hundredths is going to go right there. Yeah, that's right. And so now, once all of these numbers are located on the number line, we immediately know the order from least to greatest. All right, on this one, again, we can use a number line if we chose and located each of these numbers on that number line, but we're going to do it in just in number form, and we need to put them from greatest to least, and they want us to write them in decimal form. So I see that we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see that we have 6 numbers, and so let's write those down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we are going to write them from greatest to least. So the greatest is way over here, and the least is way over here. Now we're going to use some logic here, and the first thing I see is 34. Okay, this is 4.03, so that's larger than 4. This is 4 ones, so that's larger than 4. This is 4 and 4300, so that's larger than 4. I see that 430 over 100 is also larger than 4, and this one, so the only one that's not larger than 4 is this 34 hundredths. So he is going to go right here as the least. We automatically see that as the least, and we're asked to write it in decimal form, so that's what I did. So now what we're going to do is let's take each one of these numbers, and if it is not already in decimal form, let's write it in decimal form. So 4.03, that's done. That's already in decimal form. So now let's take a look at 4 ones and 33 hundredths. Well, that 4 ones and 33 hundredths. So if we want to, we could think of this as 4 ones plus 3 tenths plus 3 hundredths. So really, that's the same thing as 4.33. All right. So we now have another decimal form, and so this guy we don't really need anymore. So I'm going to kind of put him up here to remind us where he came from, right there. And then the next one, 4 and 43 hundredths, that's straightforward. That is 4 and 43 hundredths, so that's pretty straightforward. And then the next one is 430 hundredths. All right, so that's worth writing down here. So 430 hundredths. Well, we can do a little decomposition. We can call that 400 over 100 plus 30 over 100. And isn't it fair to say that 400 over 100 is equal to 4? Plus, and isn't it fair to say that 30 over 100 is 3 over 10? And so that immediately tells us that's 4.3. So that means we can write that over here, where's my pen? 4.3. And so we've got all these decimals showing up over here. And so I'm going to shrink this guy to get him out of the way. And then the last one is already a decimal. That's 4.31. So I'm going to write that. Let's put it right here, 4.31. And so now we can look at these numbers, and we see that they're all tied for the whole numbers. We see that this is the only one with the 4 in the tenths place. So this is our greatest of the ones that we have. And so now we can look, and again, they're still all tied in the ones place. Well, this guy doesn't have any tenths. Everything else has 3 tenths. So that immediately tells us that this guy is one of the least of the remaining ones. So he could go over there. So now we've got these last ones here, and we can see that they all have 4 in the ones place. They all have 3 in the tenths place. But this guy has nothing in the hundredths place. This has 3 and this has 1. So that immediately tells us that this guy is the least, followed by this guy, and this guy was the most of those final 3. And we now have sorted them from greatest to least. And the last problem is Matt's airplane flew 9.14 meters. And then Jenna's airplane flew 9 4/10 meters. And then Ben's airplane flew 904 over 100 meters. And Leah's airplane flew 9.1 meters. All right, so whose airplane flew the furthest? So the idea is, let's get all of these in decimal form because that's going to make our life a little bit easier. Well, this first one's already in decimal form, isn't it? 9.14, so that one's easy. This one, 9 and 4/10, well, that's 9.4. And then we've got this guy, so that's going to be 9 wholes, no tenths, and 4/100. And then this last one is already in decimal form, so 9.1. So our question is, whose flew the furthest? Well, they all flew 9 as our whole number. But if we're looking at our tenths place, we see that 4/10 is larger than all of them. So that means this 9 and 4/10 is the winner. That happens to be Jenna. So Jenna's airplane flew the furthest. And that wraps up 4th grade Module 6, Lesson 11, comparing and ordering numbers, but some of them were in tricky forms.
Alrighty, so I want you to get some practicing. So what I want you to do in order to reach our goal of continue to compare decimals, but this time comparing decimals with mixed numbers and regular fractions, what I'd like for you to do is I want you to log on to your iReady account and complete any assigned decimal lessons that you have not completed. Then I would like you to go on to Zearn and complete lesson number 11. Don't forget to use your tools. Don't forget to reach out to peers and always self-assess your work. Remember to complete the exit ticket at the end, and that is it. I just want to remind you, please do not start the exit ticket until you have completed the assignments, the actual practice work. I don't want you taking the exit tickets until you've completed the actual independent work so that you feel confident, okay? All right, enjoy, guys.